Yeah, I like the take the rejection or even failure as not personal,
Yeah.
as a data point that you can then learn from, because I think that how a lot of men who maybe have a kind of tumultuous relationship with risk approach taking a risk is that in the back of their mind, they're almost like looking for the evidence when the rejection happens to reinforce the internal story of, see, I'm not good enough, or I'm a POS, or, like whatever it is that's running through them. So I do think that that part is really, really helpful when it comes to taking risks. I think the other thing that's kind of compressed a lot of men's ability to take risks is a couple fold, and I'm curious to get your insight on this. One is I think our male relationships have really suffered and collapsed.
Yes.
And so we don't have other men pushing us to be like, do that thing, jump off the 10-foot cliff into the water, like you'll be okay. Or, I think go and talk to that woman or send the email or ask the promotion. And I think a lot of our relationships with our male counterparts, with the close men in our lives, have become kind of soft to a degree where other men aren't challenging us to expand who we actually are as a man. And then I think the other thing that is infringing on this is social media's like just the onslaught of strangers that are willing to fucking terrorize you. Like the amount of shit that I have had to face on YouTube and Instagram and the emails that I get sometimes, because here's the thing, I've tried for the last 10 years to be very middle of the road.
Yes.
And
that's the hardest part.
Yeah. I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about religion. I don't get into any of that shit. And it's so interesting that, in the last couple of years, I've noticed this rise in people who send me really hateful, mean messages around like, how could you follow this person? It's like, what the fuck does it matter that I follow them? Like I really try and immerse myself with diverse opinions, but it seems like we have entered in this time where if I disagree with you, I will sever the relationship with you. And I think that is so dangerous. And I see a lot of men who are paralyzed and they're afraid that if they take a risk and they make the wrong move, that they're just going to get annihilated for it, whether it's online, through Twitter, Instagram, or whatever it is, or they're going to get attacked, online or at work or whatever. And so comment on those two pieces, the male relationships and then the onslaught that you inevitably probably have to face.
You and I have taken on the risk of not being put into an echo chamber. That's what you're experiencing, right? I would say Chris Williamson's in the same category. I would say Adam Sosnick's meaning political moderates who sit there and talk about dating and relationships and these dynamics. Because we don't fall so far to the red pill tradcon side of things, we get criticism from them. And we don't fall all the way to the Justin Baldoni, Chris GQ Perry, Will Hitchens, like female pandering side of things. So we get criticism from that side as well. Because I go where the data takes me. This is one thing I've noticed, Connor, is when I make an argument with someone and they're using the feelings that they have, and my argument is based on stats that I've seen, I tend to get way more angry responses when I try to base what I'm saying in some level of science or experience, or like in your situation, you've dealt with hundreds or thousands of clients and you use data that you know to be true. You don't need it to be true. You don't even want it to be true, but you know it to be true and you express it. They can't argue back. And so the only recourse they have is personal attacks or hatred. I get a ton of it. And it's really funny because people who are like even further to the left than me see me as like a hardcore red pill, which is absurd. And people who are hardcore red pill people see me as like some beta simp, whatever, because I have a ton of female friends, right? I'm I'm friends with Rollo Tomasi and Destiny. You couldn't get us any further apart from those two people. I'm friends with both of them. And it's one of these things where people are like very angry with me when it comes to these ideas. I'm friends with Jasmine Jafar and I'm friends with Andrew Tate. But it's because I try to listen to people who have beliefs and viewpoints that I disagree with, and I can have discord with them without making these things personal. And when I do that, then it's totally fine. I love talking to people who disagree with me, but here's the reason why. I have enough self-confidence and have taken enough risk, like we talked about previously, where if someone says something that I disagree with, for instance, I was dating someone, who was significantly younger than me before. It wasn't my choice. We just met each other, found each other very attractive, and she was significantly younger than me. And I was talking to Jasmine Jafar about this, and she pointed out, it's like the likelihood of you making it as a marriage with this age disparity you have is like 14%. It's like very low. I didn't look at her and cuss her out. What I said is, okay, let me look into this data. And sure enough, it is true. Like when you have massive age differences in a marriage, it's harder to make things work. And so I took the data, I took the feedback, and I inculcated it into my life. I had to accept that reality. And I actually even talked to my partner about it at the time. And so your willingness to do that, for instance, I'm slightly right of center. 20 years ago, I would be left of center. It's just the world has become a little bit more left leaning, but I'm slightly right of center. So one of my favorite podcasts are these two guys who are socialists, who are both friends of mine. They basically talk about socialist ideas all the time. And I listen to them, and I love listening to them because I want to say, am I going way off overboard in my beliefs? When we did a political, the night of the election, we did an election episode of my show, Access Vegas, a live stream I do. And we went out and I said, I need people who are liberals and I need conservatives. And because I'm slightly right of center, all the people that it connected me to were conservatives. And when I talked to them, I said, hey, do you know anyone who's going to vote for Kamala Harris? And they're like, I don't know a single person. I can't believe anyone's going to vote for Kamala Harris. I finally found two friends of mine, not through the internet, who are Harris supporters. And they're like, I don't know a single person who's going to vote for Donald Trump. What's happened is these social media platforms are putting us in these echo chambers. And when you're in the echo chamber and you say a certain thing, you're going to notice all your comments are positive. When you do like what I say, you, myself, Chris, I'd say Mac and Murphy is kind of in the same space where we're just going where the data takes us. What happens is we get attacked from both sides, and it's insane. Another one I would say, I think Joe Rogan's pretty moderate, and it's really funny. If you guys have ever seen the video of Joe Rogan explaining climate science to Candace Owens, you understand that he's not anywhere near as far to the right as you think he is. But people on the left think he's a far right extremist, and people on the far right think that he's a liberal. Like, it's really crazy when you see this, when you just try to have a tempered view of the world. I don't need anything to be right or wrong. I just go where the data takes us, where the data takes me. And I'm not offended by the truth ever, no matter how bad the truth makes me look or the truth makes our species look. I'm never offended by the truth, and I'm open to it. So what's happened, what I'm hypothesizing what's happened with you, and to a greater extent, like say Chris Williamson, is because you guys are going where the data takes you and you have a certain type of audience. I think Chris said his 85% of his audience is male or something like that. When you go to a place where the data takes you and they don't like the responses, they don't like the outcome. Like, for instance, men on the red pill side, they love this stat. Women who have more sexual partners before they're married have a higher likelihood of marital dissatisfaction, right? They love that stat. But then when you take the same stat and you're like, well, men who have more sexual partners before they're married also have a higher level of marital dissatisfaction. They don't like that stat so much, right? And I'm like, you have to take both stats. You can't just say one thing without the other. And when you do so, it was funny. I just said something that was empirically true. It's just true. And because I said it, now all of a sudden I'm getting attacked from both sides. I would say Professor Scott Galloway is in this arena. I would say Richard Reeves is in this arena. They're just going where the data takes them. Galloway and Reeves are left of center. I would say I'm a right of center. Dr. Buss, I have no idea what his political beliefs are. But when you go where the data takes you, then you find common ground with these people. I agree with Professor Galloway with more than I disagree, even though we're on the different sides of the political aisle. And so when you see that, then all of a sudden you get attacked from both sides. I would love to see a lot of political moderates come together and like share some of these ideas. And what you would see is some of the most hateful comments of all time. You would see, because it's very difficult to deal with someone who has a based viewpoint that's, especially in your situation, that's based in some level of science, psychology. And you try to have an argument with them. They get very, very angry when you try to do those things. But the ones about body count before marriage, I mean, they're pretty conclusive. But here's another one that makes women mad whenever I say it, but it's still true. 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. We see this from the data. And also my good friend, James Sexton, he's a divorce attorney. He's talked about it as well. When you look at homosexual divorces, the homosexual divorce rate between two gay men, it's about 28%. For heterosexual couples, it's about 56%. For lesbian couples, it's 78%. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And in lesbian couples, when they don't have men to blame, they're still getting divorced at 78%. That would tell you that while men may be part of the problem, a lot of the problem may be women just have more of a proclivity to leave a relationship than men do. That data is very hard for a lot of people to swallow. They do not like that whatsoever. It's much easier to just blame men for women divorcing men. That's just that men just didn't step up. And that's the only possible answer. And any other answer than that is ridiculous. Other than when you go back to the original thing I talked about, parental investment hypothesis, women are just pickier than men. It's good. They're the ones who gestate children. They're the ones who are generally the primary caregivers. It's good that they're picky, but their pickiness caused them to want to leave relationships sooner than men do. In general, about 4-1, women want to more than men, or 3-1, somewhere in that area. Well, when I bring that stats up, women are like, no, it's because men are lazy. They're not alpha anymore. And I'm like, that could be true. But again, in lesbian relationships, if you have a 78% divorce rate, that would indicate that maybe it's not men who are the entire problem here. And people really don't like that discussion. They hate that discussion.